All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA offseason video. In this video, we're going to talk about the Jaylen Brown trade, and you're going to be surprised who he got traded to because I was surprised. Let me start off by saying I could have made this video when it happened. I had the time, I wanted to so badly, but it appears that the algorithm doesn't like when I upload two times in one day. I tried it with the job video. The job video didn't do too well, so we're not going to do that anymore, at least too close together. Um, thing two, I wanted to make the video right away. But for those who know or don't know, Jaylen Brown also streams on Twitch. And I was wondering maybe possibly if he would go live last night, yesterday, and talk about the whole situation and talk about the trade and everything. He did not, but other people have put their opinions out there, and I've had time to sit and digest this trade because it is shocking. Let's get right into it, man. Uh, Blockbuster. This is from ESPN Shams Charania. The Boston Celtics have agreed to a trade Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George, two first round picks and two second round picks, sources tell ESPN. And the Boston Celtics get Paul George as well. Um, yeah, that's the trade. We're gonna get into it. If you like what I've said, like the video. If you have an opinion, comment down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. Also, thank you. We're at 19 subscribers now. We are on our way to 20. The goal was 20 before the new year, and we're literally one away. So if you want to be the 20th and I can shout you out in a video, subscribe. Just hit the button. It's easy. Um, so immediate thoughts when I saw this. Um, Obviously, when you see the notification, it says Blockbuster, Boston Celtics have agreed to trade Jaylen Brown to, and it says dot dot dot. Um, I was like, oh, he got traded to like Detroit or like whatever, maybe even the Blazers. He got traded to a bitter rival in the Sixers. He got traded in conference. He got traded in division, and the Celtics only got back Paul George and some picks that they probably won't use. You know, like the draft prospect that is going to be selected with that pick won't put on a Boston Celtics hat or won't put on a Boston Celtics jersey, is what I'm getting at. So, my thought, besides, other than that, he got traded in conference and in division, um, my immediate thoughts were they messed this up really bad. They messed this up really bad. There is no world in which you should trade your finals MVP, your best player last season, to a conference rival. There is no world in which that should happen. I think the Boston Celtics panicked. I think they thought Jaylen Brown would be worth more on the market, obviously because he was in Giannis talks, and he could have gone to Milwaukee, and Boston could have got Giannis, and that fell through. They were still shopping him, and I sat here and told you guys I think this relationship is mendable. They can fix it, right? This is before the trade, obviously. I said, it just needs to be Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Brad Stevens, sit down, have a conversation, and it'll be fixed before next season, before training camp. Um, I, I, I don't think that happened. From everything I've read and heard, is that Boston wanted to get rid of him no matter what, whether it was for Giannis, whether it's for anybody, apparently. And Jaylen Brown, this is verbatim, Jaylen Brown never requested a trade. He was never adamant about leaving Boston. The Boston Celtics wanted to do this for whatever reason. And there are things floating out there, and there are just a bunch of stuff, narratives getting formed out there. And I'm not here to paint narratives. I'm not here to, what is it? What am I trying to say? I'm not here to, you know, bring down Jaylen Brown because as much as I don't like Jaylen Brown, I think he's a bit of smartest guy in the room, type of vibe. I've said that for a long time, even before other people started saying it. Um, I can appreciate him as a basketball player, and as a basketball player, I came into last season thinking Jaylen Brown can't lead a team, no way. and he proved me wrong. And I gave him all the credit over the past 6 months that we've played basketball. I gave him a lot of credit, and he won me over. I was like, okay, he can do it. He can be a number one option, guaranteed. Um, as much as all those things that I've said, apparently Boston did not like what Jaylen Brown was saying this offseason. They didn't like that he was saying he had the best year of his career. They didn't like him saying that he liked being number one. Not verbatim those words, but more or less that's what Jaylen Brown was saying. And I've said on other platforms that, you know, I never felt like Jaylen Brown was a Boston guy, and that's not to discredit him. I always felt like Jason Tatum was more of a Boston guy, a guy who sacrificed, a guy who's low key, a guy who doesn't care about the spotlight. Even though some people think Jason Tatum's a little corny, people appreciate Jason Tatum more than Jaylen Brown. I feel like Jaylen Brown gets clowned on way more than Jason Tatum gets clowned on because Jaylen Brown's just a character with him unto himself essentially. Um, Boston really didn't start to like that he was a character. And I'm not trying to portray Jaylen in a certain way, saying he didn't buy into the Boston system. He wasn't a Boston guy. I'm not trying to say that, word for word. But they just didn't vibe with him. The vibe, for lack of a better term, the vibes were off, and they felt he maybe was detrimental to the team, detrimental to the locker room, detrimental to the franchise, and they wanted to get rid of him. Um, Getting to the package for him, like I said, y Boston couldn't have gotten anything better, and you're going to hear this from everybody that talks about this. People going to say, you couldn't get anything better? Why didn't you try to get anything better? The Shams Charania reported they canvassed the league. Canvassed? Canvassed. They looked around the league. They asked around the league, what can we get for Jaylen Brown? And they didn't like any of the offers. And this was the best offer they could have gotten. I hate it. I absolutely hate it for Boston. We're going to get into the Sixers first because they obviously won this trade. Duh. But the package being Paul George, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks for a finals MVP, a player who had the best year of his career, um, is interesting because as much as I think I wouldn't want Jaylen Brown on my team, just because like I wouldn't want to interact with him as a person, like on a day-to-day basis, like if he was my employee, if I'm the GM, I don't want to interact with him. I just don't care for his um the way he carries himself personally. Um, that's not racist. Just putting that out there. I just don't like those people that are smartest people in the room. I just want that to be very clear. He's a very funny person on Twitch and stuff. I appreciate his live streams and everything, but interacting with him every day could wear on somebody like me, and it obviously wear it on the Boston Celtics. Um, that being said, Jaylen Brown is a basketball player, like we keep talking about. Jaylen Brown as a basketball player is very different from Jaylen Brown the person. Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP. I mean, let's pull up his basketball reference. Let's pull that up real quick. Um, Jaylen Brown was in Boston for 10 years. Damn, that makes me feel old. Wow, 10 years. Um, Jaylen, did I say Brunson? No, Jaylen Brown. It's Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, 5-time All Star, 2024 NBA champ, 2020, 2-time All NBA, 2023, 2024 Eastern Conference Finals MVP, 2023, 2024 Finals MVP, career averages of 20 points, um, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 47% field goal, 35% 3-point percentage, about 70% ish, somewhere around there from free throw, and effective field goal 53%. And last year, he played 71 games. He was a 28-point scorer, 7 rebounds per game, 5 assists, same field goal, almost the same 3-point percentage. Um, that's a guy. That's the guy that the Sixers are getting, and so that's a steal of a player to put around a guy like Joel Embiid. In this offseason, also, I talked about these a little bit in my other video yesterday. Um, the 76ers also got Dean Wade. They got Ariel Hukporte. I don't really like Dean Wade as a player. Ariel Hukporte I really liked when he was a Knick. We'll see how he does as a Sixer. But Paul George goes to the Celtics. Jaylen Brown goes to the Sixers. He literally just has to take a train down from Boston. You're in Philly. Jaylen Brown gets to play with 32-year-old Joel Embiid, um, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and the rest of the guys, and gets to play under Coach Nick Nurse. Um, yeah, the the East, and I meant to say this yesterday, and I forgot to say it because we were kind of all over the place talking about both conferences. And I was trying to get through the lists of transactions, but the East is so good. The East is so good now. It's scary how good it is. We look at these teams, right? And just going off like what we know right now and what the rosters are, and this is obviously subject to change. We look at these teams in no order, but just teams that are going to be competitive, just point blank period competitive. New York, Cleveland, Toronto, Atlanta, Philly. Wait, okay, so wait. Let's do that again. New York, Cleveland, Toronto, Atlanta, Philly, that's five. Orlando, Miami, Chicago, Indiana, the Wizards. There are about 10 teams in the East that are going to be competing for just playoff spots, for just being in the playoffs. And then obviously we can shrink it down even more to who's actually going to be competing for a championship. But it's 10 teams in the East that could actually be somewhat competitive to very competitive. And if I had to move the Sixers up into like an echelon, I would put them up there with New York. I would put them up there with Toronto. I thought Toronto was really good before they got Kawhi. Now that they got Kawhi, hell. Um, so it's New York, Toronto, Philly, Cleveland, I guess TBD, Miami. There's like five teams that are really, really good and are either proven playoff teams or have proven playoff players. It's gonna be crazy in the East. Um, do I have some concerns about how Jaylen Brown's gonna fit with some of these other guys? I think so. I think does he was he listed as? Is he listed as a shooting guard or small forward? He's listed as a small forward. Good. That's what I thought. Um, Small forward Jaylen Brown with VJ, with Tyrese. I dig it. I dig it. I dig it a lot because it lets Joel Embiid rest. You don't need from now on. You don't need to worry about Joel Embiid playing that much. You just need to worry about him being healthy and him not just getting some weird injury, like getting getting stung by a bee or something. Just the random stuff that happens to Joel Embiid. You don't have to worry about that anymore because you have Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown's proven he can be a number one option. And to be quite fair to Maxey's had the opportunity to be a number one option. I've never liked Tyrese Maxey as a number one option. I think Tyrese Maxey is a highly gifted player, and he's a bit, we'll say, over dramatic with his shot taking. Like you can see, he's picturing in his mind him walking up with the shot and taking it and making it, and like it only goes in like 40% of the time. He's had some clutch moments, but I don't like Maxey as a number one option. Now I'm going to overstep here and you know talk about Jaylen Brown a different way than that I would have last year. I think Jaylen Brown can be the number one option on the 76ers team for what he played 70 games last year. Let's say 60 games, right? 60 games this season, and I love that. I know Jaylen Brown's a little tunnel vision sometimes, a little same thing with Tyrese Maxey. The moment might be a little too big for him. Um, Sometimes, obviously, he's a Finals MVP, so he has done it on the biggest stage. So I don't want to take that away from him, but um, just game in and game out, just watching him, he does get a little ahead of himself sometimes. But I love that fit those two together because they sort of cancel out each other, and I think Coach Nick Nurse is going to try to make everybody pass the ball a little bit more. Get everybody involved, especially now when you have, we'll say, two dynamic wings in Jaylen Brown and VJ Edgecombe, who I really like. And I think if VJ Edgecombe can learn anything from Jaylen Brown, it's how to be a really good player. And that's such a gift to have. As much as, again, Jaylen Brown rubs me the wrong way, he's a hell of a competitor. And VJ's a hell of a competitor, and they're gonna go crazy off each other. They're gonna vibe so well together, um, as the wing duo, and sometimes hell, maybe even they do VJ at the point guard and Jaylen at the two, and they just run big. Um, these are thoughts that I'm having about these lineups, and they sound enticing. They sound great. Um, to get to some other stuff here before we talk about the Celtics side of things, because the Celtics side isn't pretty. It's not nice. Let me see here. Um, Brad Stevens was just executive of the year last year, 2025, 2026. He was just executive of the year. Um, there's thoughts surrounding Boston that well, there are thoughts, but let me say this first. The Boston Celtics have a new owner. And the new owner, whenever, for those who don't know, in sports, in basketball, but in other sports, I assume also, when the new owner comes in, they don't really care about the other players that have been there. They don't care. Like, they don't care what the other ownership brought in. They don't care. They have no emotional attachment to that player, so it's easy to cut them off. It's easy to get rid of them. Um, some people are speculating that maybe this wasn't a Brad Stevens move. This was a move by the ownership group pushing Brad to make this move. I could buy that. I just don't want to confirm that. So that's hearsay. That's a rumor. I can't confirm that to be true. But this doesn't feel like a Brad Stevens move for many reasons. Brad Stevens coached Jaylen Brown. Brad Stevens was the coach when Jaylen Brown was a rookie, and coached him for, I believe it was three or 4 years. They're very tight. Maybe that relationship has fractured. Maybe we don't know something. Maybe something will come out later. But this doesn't feel like a Brad Stevens move. Brad Stevens is a smart guy. This doesn't feel smart. The Boston Celtics. Well, let me say this: the Warriors used to have a phrase, right? When they were the Golden State Warriors, when they were winning championships and all that stuff. Not so much now. It was a term called light years ahead, because they were always thinking ahead. They were always thinking of the next thing, right? The next move. Maybe that got them in a little trouble a little bit here in the latter stages of the 2020s. But I feel like the Boston Celtics have operated under the same way, where we look at the team last year. They knew Jason Tatum was going to be out. They knew they couldn't pay all their players that they had on that championship roster. They had to alleviate some of that financial stress, so they shipped some of their players out, got some stuff back, and they had a halfway decent season with Jaylen Brown at the helm. And that felt like a light years ahead move. And now we come into this season before the trade, we're thinking of a fully, like really fully recovered Jason Tatum, and a much improved Jaylen Brown. They were bringing in Mitchell Robinson already this offseason. They were bringing in Mike Conley. They're bringing in all these guys, right? And it felt like the team was going to um, evolve again and feel like it was light years ahead again, where they took the year off last year. It was still a successful year, but they didn't have their 1A and 1B guys. It felt like they were going to have both of them, and they were going to go into the season at least be competitive. Now that this trade has happened, and it feels like this might not be a Brad Stevens thing, it makes my spidey senses tingle. It makes me think. I'm not completely sure if this was a was a Brad Stevens move, man. Doesn't feel like it. Um, People are saying, going from potentially getting Giannis to Paul George for the Celtics is an absurd downgrade. That's from Six Rings of Steel on Twitter. Let's see, what else do we have here. So this is the report from Brian Windhorst, and take this with a grain of salt. So this is just a rumor. This is hearsay. Um, Even though, this is from Brian Windhorst again, and I quote, even though Jaylen Brown was talking about himself for MVP, the Celtics did not really feel like Jaylen Brown had the best season on their team. They felt Derek White had a better season. And this is what I'm talking about when Jaylen Brown didn't really feel like a Celtic to the people making those big decisions. They want somebody who sacrifices. They want somebody who plays the game the right way. And they didn't feel Jaylen Brown played the right way, and they finally saw it for what it was. Um, and it's very strange. This is all very strange, and I feel like a lot of the stuff I'm saying is gonna come back, and they're gonna walk it back, or we might not even ever know the truth. But I feel like we're at a point where um, it's just it's a weird trade. It's very weird. Um, Bill Simmons, the podcast father, the pod father, said 2 days ago, Bill Simmons on Jaylen Brown. Where's Jason Tatum, the guy who could squash this with the guy who could squash this is the alleged leader of the team. Nothing. It's been dead silent. And we'll touch on that. Jason Tatum not talking to Jaylen Brown supposedly. Um, mm, Jason Tatum. Oh, we'll get to Jason Tatum here in a second. Um, Mike Gainsley, since being hired as the Philadelphia 76ers GM or head of basketball operations, drafts LeBaron Philon, signs D Wade, trades Paul George 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Jaylen Brown, um, essentially fixing all of the past GM's mistakes in Daryl Morey. This guy with Mike Gainsley deserves a statue in Philly because getting off that Paul George contract, mwah, beautiful, beautiful. Hats off to you. Hats off to you. Was it like your second month on the job? Incredible, incredible stuff. Um, I'm not gonna. This is not a report. This is just somebody else's opinion. I'm not gonna read that because that feels icky of me to do that. Let's talk about this from the Celtics side. And this was the immediate reaction of a lot of Celtics fans. And I try not to look at other people's reactions to stuff before I make my own reaction, but I had to check out a Boston Celtics fans' reaction, and they're like, "What are we doing? Are we going into a rebuild now?" Like, because I feel like this is just me. This is an inflection point for the Celtics where 10 years from now, Jason Tatum's going to be on a podcast, and he might have won one more championship or might not have won any. Um, they're going to ask him what happened. What happened after the Achilles tear? What happened after Jaylen Brown left? And he's going to say like the team fell apart, like it just didn't feel the same. I feel like this is a point in which where these two guys, number 7 Jaylen Brown, number 0 Jason Tatum, were together for so long. They were together for 9 years, right? Because Jason Tatum was drafted the year after Jaylen Brown. They were together for 9 years, and they had so many good times together. The ups and the downs of building a super team essentially with Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, it going down, it going back up, them ascending into all stardom, them losing to the Warriors in before the 2021 season, the finals previous to that one. Or the 2022 finals, I should say, so the 2021 finals, them losing, them regrouping, the Ime Udoka stuff, going back down, them getting Joe Mazzulla off the back row of the bench, them going back up and then winning the championship. There were a lot of ups and downs for this team. And I feel like, as much as the reports are saying that Jaylen Brown maybe wasn't liked by the the ownership or whatever might have happened, I feel like his teammates really liked him. And I hate to read reports that could be completely fabricated that his teammates didn't like him. I have never heard a teammate of Jaylen Brown say they disliked him. I don't think Jason Tatum disliked him. I think they just had conflicting personalities at times, but when you're a professional and you win at the highest level, you understand the other person's inner workings, their inner machinations. And I feel like there was a mutual respect there. And I feel like there was a mutual understanding that together they could do so much more. But separate, they're just okay. They're both, at one point, they're both, MVP players. They've both proven that at some point in their career. Um, I feel like this is a point for Jason Tatum where he's going to really think about, I won't say his future in Boston, but think about what the hell is going on? Is this really what the NBA is about? Is this really what we're doing? And he's been in the league 9 years. It's going to be his 10th year next year. Well, yeah, 10th year. Yeah, 10th year. Um, it's rough. I feel for Jason Tatum in this because even if the reports ever come out that are really true that he didn't like Jaylen Brown, um, it's sad to see a team like this fall apart in the manner that it did. And I think back how we got here. I remember it was Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and these young 20-something-year-olds, and they had their whole career in front of them. And now we're here in 2026. Jason Tatum's 30. Jaylen Brown is almost 30. He's going to be probably 30. Yeah, he's going to be 30 at the beginning of the season. We sit here and we think about why this happened. Um, it's sad. It really is, because somebody up top made a call, made a decision that Jaylen Brown was not conducive to winning anymore, or he didn't fit the culture anymore, and that's upsetting. Um, but to the roster of the Celtics now, Jason Tatum. I mean, we can pull their roster up right now. They still have some contracts pending and everything, but we can still pull it up here. Um, Boston Celtics. Here we go. So they get Mike Conley, they get Ron Harper Jr. re-signed, they go get Mitchell Robinson from the New York Knicks, they get Paul George in this trade, and then they are left with Jason Tatum, Derek White, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, Ugo Gonzalez, who was a sticking point in not getting Giannis, Luca Garza, Nemez Keita, and Jordan Walsh. Is this a good team in the East? I think it's okay. I think it's just an okay team in the East. In comparison to, I think the Sixers are better than the Celtics now. I think they're about maybe the fourth or fifth team in the East now. If Jason Tatum gets back to where he was before the injury, or even is like 80%, 90% of what he was, I think they're the fifth best team. I put maybe four. No, they're like the fourth. Yeah, they're like the fourth best team. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. Depending on what else happens in this offseason, but yeah. Um, Paul George at the grand old age of, what is he, 36? Yeah, 36. He's 36 years old. Um, pardon me, Jason Tatum's 28. I'm talking like he's 30. He'll be 29, so basically 30. um, I again, I go back to the Warriors thing where it feels like the Warriors are always light years ahead. It always felt like the Boston Celtics were ahead on these things. You know, they always made the right move the last couple years. Even when they traded their heart and soul in Marcus Smart a couple years ago, the season after they won the championship. So the high risk, high reward things have paid off. You know, um, signing Kristaps Porzingis, not knowing if he'd be healthy. He miraculously was healthy for that one season and helped them win the championship. They've paid off. I don't feel like this high risk. This is the most high risk you could get. This is not going to pay off. I don't care who those picks turn into. I don't care if they turn into Michael Jordan. Jason Tatum is going to be 35 something years old, and you're going to bring in a young rookie to help him. He might not even be a Celtic when he's 35. You know, it puts Jason Tatum in a rough situation. It takes this team effectively, unless there's another move coming, which there entirely could be, but I don't see it. Um, Even if they trade for Jalen Duren now, it just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't. Ugh. This sets them back 2 years at least 2 years, a year. What we thought last year would be a gap year might turn into this year, to be completely honest. And yeah, those are my thoughts on this trade. I wanted to make this again. I wanted to make this video a day after or a couple hours after, like maybe 24 hours, 18 hours after, because I wanted clear and concise thoughts and not just a gut reaction, because I feel like that's what everybody does. And I do that too sometimes. But this trade was shocking. I don't think I said that enough in this video. This trade was shocking. This trade was um, uh, the LaMelo trade. You heard it like 24 hours before that it was going to get traded. Didn't know if it was going to happen, but you knew it was going to happen. The Giannis thing, you knew that was happening from like 3 years ago. You knew that was coming. The Ja one was kind of shocking, but we knew he was going to get shipped off. We just didn't know it was to Portland. This one, it was shocking that Jason Tatum got moved. It was shocking for what he got moved for. It was shocking where he landed up. So it hit all three boxes. And I am completely shook. And it's going to be interesting to see what both these teams do, because they're going to see a lot of each other this next season. They're in the same conference, in the same division. They're going to see each other maybe 4 times next year. There's definitely going to be a Christmas Day game of these guys playing, probably in Boston. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's it. That's the video. Check out the other video on the left. The end screen should be playing right now. Check out the playlist on the right. And if you click my little icon right in the middle of the screen, a little subscribe button will pop up, and you can subscribe with ease, like and comment as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.